Thanks for joining us again. Really special episode today. We're fortunate enough to have four great guys along from FIGS and former international greats. They do a lot of great work around the community and in the football circles. And I'll introduce them right away. We've got Peter Hogan, and Peter's the skipper of the ship. Peter, thanks for joining us today, mate.
Mate, I'm just a workhorse. I'm the secretary.
Yeah, very, very modest.
We've got Larry Corowa there. Larry, ex-international, Tigers legend, played a bit of games for Seagulls as well. Been around the traps here in the local Gold Coast as well for a bit. Good to see you, Larry.
Thanks, guys. Good to be here.
Thanks for joining us. Also got Kurt Sorensen, absolute legend of the game, Cronulla, the Roosters, and obviously played many games for the mighty New Zealand side as well. Thanks for joining us, Kurt.
200 plus games for Winders as well, Kurt.
Yeah, Winders, yeah.
Yeah, I read that and I think, how did I do that? And still walking.
And also Bernie Lowther as well. So Bernie, Canterbury and the Rabbitohs, as well as the, like Kurt, the New Zealand boy as well. Thanks for joining us, mate.
Correct. Yep.
Anyway, let's jump straight into it, boys. We'll talk about your careers and all this other things that you guys have done in the past shortly. But what we wanted to ask first is, I had a chat with Peter, how this came about. Peter and I had a chat a little while ago, and the work that you guys have done, I've spoken to people apart from Peter, and they really appreciate all the things that FIGS has done. Peter, tell us about the start of it, how it came about, and why it came about.
Mate, I probably should really defer that to Bernie, because Bernie's been there right from day one. So if you don't mind, I'll just deflect that one to him and or Larry, because whilst I was there at the very first meeting, they're the blokes that have done it, and I only really just sort of got on board a few months ago.
All right, sure. Bernie?
Yeah, well, look, it started a few years ago now with a couple of blokes, and Larry and I were included. And, what happened, the NRL at the time stopped inviting Englishmen and the Kiwis to the Kangaroo reunion at the end of each year. Now, it didn't sit very well with a few people, and we were just having a few beers at Greenmount Surf Club one day and come up with the idea and say, well, why don't we start our own and get a reunion for all internationals again. And I first went to a Kangaroo reunion in 1973. So, and I must have gone for 30 plus years. And then all of a sudden, the invitations actually stopped coming. And so we thought, well, it'd be a good idea to start the FIGS, so we can have there's people here in Queensland and on the Gold Coast, and we had people come up from Sydney, and we had our own reunion. Now, it got back that it was a huge success, and it was. And we had people like Bob McCarthy, Tommy Bishop, Noel Kelly, who's not with us anymore, Billy Smith, and a number of guys on the coast. So what happened then was that we had a meeting with the NRL with Mel Meninga, because it was originally Mel who actually stopped the Kangaroo reunion for people like the Kiwis and the Great Britain players. Now, it must have done some good, because they have now got the reunion back on their calendar. And it was always a great day. It was always a fantastic day. It was a once a year thing where everyone could catch up. Now, as I said, I went to my first one in 1973, and I went in a pair of thongs, a pair of board shorts and a T-shirt. It was on the Sunday after the grand final at Sydney Cricket Ground. It was an awesome day. And then it progressed from there. Like, it was always at the cricket ground. Then it got to a sit-down luncheon. It then went to the New South Wales League Club. It was there for many, many moons. And they were days you couldn't buy, if you understand. Like, they were just fantastic days. A lot of memories were shared. A lot of stories were shared. A lot of characters were reinventing themselves. It was just an awesome day. And people like, I think the Kiwis at one stage, they had 3 tables. And I know the Poms always had 2 or 3 tables, and the rest were the Australian Kangaroos. And then it was more of the older generation, and it was really hard at that time to get the younger people to get involved. And I'm talking about, you know, the era of, let's say, I'm not trying to, the 80s era, late 80s, 90s were very hard to get people to come to them. So it was always, but you know, it was a good thing, and we've started FIGS now, and I can't believe the response we're getting. It's just an enormous thing we've started. We've got a lot of things that we want to do, and I suppose the COVID has really helped us get ourselves in order. If you understand, like we've dotted our I's, crossed our T's, we're ready to rumble again. But the FIGS organisation is very successful, and it's now that we're finally getting a lot of the younger people who are starting to put their hand up to come to FIGS reunions, plus the fans. So where the Kangaroo reunion is just for internationals, our reunion is for internationals, players that have played the game, first grade players, played country, played New South Wales, played Queensland, plus the fans. So it gives the fans a chance to rub shoulders with some of the icons of rugby league, and it's been very well received. And you know, I think we'll only get better from here. We're far more structured than we've ever been, and the future's looking very bright for us. Would you agree, boys?
Absolutely.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And I think another point that we should make as well is that the game was in a mess probably, 5-8 years ago, and we needed the tradition to come back into the game. It was being lost, and FIGS is the reason we started back up again on the Gold Coast, because there's a lot of players that played the game weren't having a voice. And I think now with the FIGS being formed, we're trying to get a voice back into the game, because the game needs former players, I think, to start making the game better for everyone. And it's been let down a bit through the management, we think. And hopefully we can get to Peter V'landys and the new guys at NRL and have a voice through FIGS. So that's one of the important things that we need to get across too, is to the former players want to have a say in the game.
Good. Peter, you add anything to that?
Look, I just agree with everything both Larry and Bernie have said, and I think what Larry was saying there when he added it was that it was pretty important, because there's a lot of dissension amongst, say, the ex-players and the fans, and was going, and I don't know how it's happened, but V'landys has come up with and done a lot of the things, or a couple of the things that FIGS were talking about, we're trying to get to happen. And, number one was going from 2 referees back to 1. And that, I don't know how that's leaked through. I'd like to hope, to think that FIGS have had a big part in that. And I think everyone will agree that the game has just improved so much since then. I'll just have my 2 bobs worth at the moment. I think that if the touch judges got back to where they used to be, probably when all these blokes were playing, that'd be a much better spectacle too, because they need to take a lot more responsibility. And I'm being positive here. I'm not knocking that. I just see as that's the next step.
Good. What do you got to say about it?
Yeah, I went to that. I think it was that first reunion on the Gold Coast, and I was just amazed at the difference in the whole atmosphere. I've been going to those Kangaroo reunions, and they were good, but to see a lot of the guys and a lot of the older guys that actually made their own way up from Sydney, to me that told a big story. And when Bernie asked me to come on board after they sort of reformed, I was only too happy to, because I really believe in what the idea is behind it and what they want to achieve.
We obviously, Greg and I, like, kids of the 80s, I guess, but we watched a lot of clashes that, you guys were involved with. And sometimes they were brutal clashes. And I guess with the FIGS, being, England, Australia and New Zealand, essentially. Afterwards, it was all, left on the field, and you guys obviously, forged great relationships. That's obviously a big part of it too, Kurt.
Yeah, actually, probably I always felt that, because I played quite a few internationals, and I always felt that we never really mixed enough with a lot of those guys from those days. I always thought they were pretty arrogant, especially the Australian players, especially Wally Lewis. So going to these dues, made everyone, well, especially from my point of view, it made me get to know a lot of those guys that I didn't really know. And, I felt just a whole lot better through it, because we just, I don't know, was it because the rivalry was so strong with New Zealand and Australia, and, they never used to like us beating them, so we'd never talk. I mean, I don't know if you've ever seen that book that's just come out by Alison Filipano that describes a lot of that stuff. I've read that book, and, that's everything to a T. And, it's pretty sad, but having all these reunions of that really opened things up a lot. And that, that's what it should be all about. Everyone bloody mixing up after the game and, after your career.
Everyone meeting on an equal level too, which is obviously what you're alluding to there. You're right, Hamo. What I was going to say is, you have a look at the game now, and I think you guys brought up there about the touch judges and also about the one referee. Let's talk about and Volandis and what he's done. What do you think the state of the game is at the moment? Each one of you is, Larry, probably yourself first, mate. What do you think of the game at the moment? What's a positive you'd say?
Well, before Volandis got in there, it was terrible. It was like a game of touch football. They sped the game up for the entertainment for the TV. Well, they forgot about the rules that go along that served us for 108 years. So that's where the big disappointment, that's from my end, and I think from a lot of the former players. But, if they're going to come back and put some more the rules back into the game, well, it's a no-brainer, and he's has put a couple of the rule changes back in, but he's got to go further, in my view. The play of the balls are terrible. It's just tunnel balls. There's forward passes everywhere. So, if he tidies up a few more areas and get rid of the bunker, would be great. The game will go well.
The bunker, it cops a few black eyes, and absolutely deserves, I think, too. I think it's a shame, Larry, is we're talking around a water cooler on Monday mornings more so about that sort of stuff than the actual great play, aren't we?
That's exactly right, and it's a big disappointment for us former players, We're talking about the negatives of rugby league all the time, but, I'd rather talk about the positives that, the young players that are coming through, the Tedesco's, how brilliant he was the other night. And some of the games are starting to come back to a bit of, even Stevens now, which is, pretty good. But we're still seeing that top end 4 top teams starting to get away from the bottom teams, and the bottom teams are just starting to lag in quality. So we've got to try and bring that together. And Volandis, and, that's where hopefully the FIGS can come in and talk to Peter about, what we think the game should be doing, So hopefully that we can get a meeting with Peter and the new CEO. So that'll be great.
As an outside back, and you're probably the quickest bloke around in your era. Who's someone who excites you at the moment? You mentioned Tedesco. Who's a winger or outside back that you think, gee, like he's impressing me. He's someone who's exciting, brings people to the game.
Yeah, well, there was a couple of blokes like the Foxes. is very quick and good. I was a big fan of James Roberts. I think he's, Jimmy the Jet, but he's getting injured at the moment, and he's not getting onto the field. He's another bloke that I really like that can run really good. And the other bloke I thought was going to be a superstar, but he's taken the kid from Cronulla is in a bit of strife.
Yeah.
So
Bryson Cherry, yeah.
Bronson Cherry, So, but yeah, the Fox and Jimmy the Jet were my two favourites.
What about you, Bernie?
Oh, today, like I'm in the back line. I'm a pretty. I must agree with Larry. Like I think Tedesco's. He's just an awesome player. I mean, sort of bloke he would have been good to play with. You know what I mean? Like, but he hunts the ball, and and he's got a good football brain as well. He reads the game pretty well from the back. I like young Pappenhausen. I think Pappenhausen is an exciting player. But Addo Carr, Bronson Cherry. There's a lot of good kids around that are playing football. There's a lot of talent. And, I'd like to see how these guys would go if the game was played to the rules. If the game, we have rules. We've had rules in for a long, long time. Forward pass to forward pass. You always have to play the ball with your foot. All those, they build a game for it's like T20 cricket. They build a game to be all over in a few hours, and they've just forgotten about the basics of the game. If they went back to the basics of rugby league, that's forward passes. There was never ever a need to go to two referees. If you want to get rid of gang tackling, or you want to get rid of some of these tackles they call now that I've never heard of, go back to bring it back from 10 metres to 8 metres or to 6 metres. Then you'll get blokes playing before, through, or before the line, through the line, or whatever, and you'll get blokes going one underneath, one over the top. Still get the quick play of the ball, but at the moment, some blokes make more yardage going backwards than they do going forwards, and that's where all these other tackles come into play that you've never heard of. Like you never heard of a crucial tackle back in the 70s and the 80s. You never heard of a chicken wing tackle. And now they've got this other one. Now I don't know, it's because blokes take their legs out. Well, they only take their legs out because they've got 3 blokes hanging on, and a bloke comes underneath and takes. That's where all the injuries are coming from. Yeah. Plus, I think they overdo training. If that can be said, like they like to rest players. I never liked to be rested. I didn't want to miss a game of football. Hated it. But now they want to rest players come up to the finals. Why? I think Ivan Cleary's done a good job. He rests his blokes from training, but they play match day, play game day. That's to me, that's the way they should be heading. But, like when I played, I went to the dressing sheds before the game, I got the rub and I got taped. Then I slept for 40 minutes. I had to lay down. Now they go out and train for 45 minutes. No wonder these blokes break down before they get on the park. I don't see the need for that. But to me, I don't see the need for it at all. And the game's got to change a little bit, or a lot. I think Volandis has done a good job, but I also think that Mr. Volandis has got to bring back A grade, reserve grade, and under 23s, or whatever you want to call it. So the fans get 3 games a day. They've got to stop these stadiums overcharging, because I believe and that's why you've got touch football. Who wants to go and watch touch football? It's the most boring game in the world to watch, touch. It's great to play, but it's a shit of a game to watch. And so, why are we worrying about touch football? But touch players can play on the ground at no cost. But if we play a reserve grade game there, it costs the club another $10,000 for hiring fees. Well, somehow along the way, we've got to get all on the same page, haven't we? Like it was the greatest game of all.
Yeah, no, I couldn't agree more, Bernie. I think
what's the greatest game? So we've all got to get on the page somewhere and get this game going in the right direction, because it's a quality product. There's some quality players out there, and I think some of these players are being unfairly treated because they're like robots. I'd like to see them play football. Let them get out there and play football. Not a robot style of football, but unfortunately, until all this changes and we get pathways back again, that's what we're going to have to put up with for a while. It's a shame, really.
To follow up there, Bernie, and to bring Kurt and Peter into it, especially Kurt obviously playing when there was no interchange. And very interesting now with the, you know, you guys all played with no interchange, but bringing the forward perspective into it, Kurt, you know, you had to play 80 minutes. There was no, you know, going off for 10 minutes after 10 minutes and all that. What's your thoughts on
FIGS and scrums?
FIGS and scrums? So, I mean,
I
obviously,
don't like it.
you have some.
I don't like the interchange.
You
I
have
don't like it. But that's, you know, like, I just, you know, like it's like putting your hand up to go to the toilet when you went to school, you know. So I just don't like it. Full stop. I just think that rugby league was built on stamina, and some great players played the game with no relief. Kurt played over 200 games in England, let alone what he played here. Once you went on the park. If you got dragged, this is my opinion anyway. If you got dragged, you knew you're going to spend the next 2 or 3 weeks in the reserve grade. No one wanted that. I don't know what the other boys think, but that's me.
Good on you, Kurt.
Good on you, Kurt.
My basic thoughts haven't really changed. I started playing rugby league when I was 4 in New Zealand, and right till this day, I've still got a love for the game that never dies, and I always felt that our game was the best game out of any game, and I still feel that way today. So, how are they going to change it? You know what Bernie's saying about going back to the old days and that. I don't know if they can get it back to that, but I definitely agreed about, you know, trying to, especially forwards, making forwards more skillful and using the ball more than just robots. That's sort of sad to see how it's become like that over the years. The scrums, well, gee, imagine if they got normal, you know, how the scrums used to be back today. I don't know if that's possible, but I think the grounding thing is that the game is such a great product, and in the right hands, it can be anything. It can be, you know, just so much better than all the rest. I think it still is better than all the rest.
A forward that you played, well, I guess I was going to say back row, but you played everywhere. You played front row, back row. You played everywhere in the forwards. Who's someone at the moment that plays that really excites you that you would have liked to have played, who you'd like to play alongside of?
I think some of those second rows, and I'll put a few names down. Like, I know that David Fafita hasn't really been doing much lately, but I think potentially he sort of looks a bit of an old style footballer, you know, because he's got the skill, he's got offload and all that. That guy from Melbourne, what's his name, Tino, or big forward.
Yeah,
he looks at how have a lot of potential to him too. I've always liked that comedy second row from Canberra.
Bateman.
The one that's Bateman who's going. The prop from Penrith, Fisher Harris.
Oh.
Fisher Harris, I think he's really come on leaps and bounds. And the guy from Canterbury who got in a bit of trouble, Naira, I think he's got a lot of potential as well. But I always liked Sammy Burgess very much. I loved his style of play. You know, that was sort of like the old school style of play, and take no prisoners.
We're just about near the end there, but look, any upcoming events or anything at all that we can share here at Two Sports? As I said, we really enjoy what you guys do at FIGS. We appreciate the work you do. Anything you can share with us coming up in the future in 2020 or beyond?
Can I just add one thing very quickly? What you're talking about. I'd love to see forwards playing in scrums and backs staying in the backs. And Valandi just talked about that. Yeah. Bernie, you want to go on to the events?
Sorry,
you've got the dates in front of you, Hogs, have you? We're going to have a reunion this year, but it's highly unlikely now because of the COVID. But you know, we're still there, ready to go, just in case. We're going to have a golf day in February the 26th. 6th, is that right?
Yeah, 26th.
Yeah, at Carbrook Golf Club. And then we're going to have a a bit of a get together at the Kira Hotel prior to Christmas, just so we can talk to some of the members that have been there, that been with us a long time, and let them know what we've done and why we've done it, and just letting them know we're still around and that we've got everyone in mind and what we want to achieve and how we're going to achieve it. So it'll come straight from the horse's mouth. So it won't be anyone picking up something that was said or they thought they heard. If people come along, they'll get a fairly good feeling where FIGS is heading and what we've done since Christmas last year, well, December last year.
All right. Thanks, Bernie. And make sure, guys, you send that through to us at Too Good Sports, and we'll pass that message on to the people.
Yeah. Yep. Are you guys in Sydney or are you up in Queensland?
Gold Coast.
Gold Coast, mate.
Gold Coast. Oh, good. Oh, well, you'll be able to come to one of our functions, won't you?
Absolutely love to. Before we're going to go around the table and ask your two grand final teams and the eventual premiers. We'll start with you, Kurt.
Melbourne are the Roosters, and Melbourne to win.
And the Churchill medalist too, while we've got you here, Kurt.
What's his name? Number 6.
Munster.
Cameron Munster.
Yeah, good one. Peter, what about you?
Oh, mate, that's a hard one. I think I've got to go with those two. But yeah, I've got to go with those two. I'd like to see Melbourne probably to beat East. I think it's their turn again. But it'd be good to see. I'd love to see someone from out the 5 get there. But I tell you, Eastern's got such a good team.
Larry, what about you, mate?
I'm going the Penny Panthers and the Roosters.
Man of the match.
And the man of the match?
Bobby Cleary.
Teddy Tedesco.
What about the 20 Tigers, Larry? They've finished 9th the last couple of years. Can they sneak into the 8 and cause a little bit of a shock? Harry Grant, how good's he going for you guys?
He's. I hope we get him next year. I hope Cameron Smith plays another year. He's a very, very good player, young talent. Yeah. Yeah. Did you say the Knights, mate? Yeah.
No, I don't think the Knights will be there myself.
No.
What about you, Bernie?
Oh, look, I have to go Storm Roosters, and I think it'll. I believe in fairy tales, and I reckon Smith will get man of the match. And he'll retire.
Not going to come up the Titans?
No, he's got to go one more year.
Yes, Bob. Well, yeah, look, it's his call, I just think he's, he could go out, he'll go out now with all the records and no one will ever beat him. No one will even get close. So, yeah, I don't know. I've got a soft spot for the Penny Panthers, but I think it'll be Storm and Roosters. The Roosters have got some quality players as Storm, and the Storm players are big time players, so yeah, they got a hook really. Their spine's pretty good, and so are the Roosters. So I think they're the quality sides.
All right, gentlemen. Well, thank you all for giving up your time with us tonight, Too Good Sport, and the great work you do at FIGS too, guys. And as I said, we'll keep in contact, and hopefully we'll have a chat down the track. But until next time, boys, thanks very much, and we'll see you soon.
Appreciate it.
Thanks very much, guys.
Thanks,
Thanks, guys. All the best.
Thank you. Cheers.
Cheers.